Today, we're going to talk about paid search, sponsored search, and I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to know, not what you want to hear. Now, a lot of brands are executing paid search like it's 2015. Times have changed. Regardless of what you're working on, you might be doing AdWords, you might be doing Meta, you might be doing LinkedIn, you might be doing AdRoll, or you might be doing other paid search campaigns. You have to pay attention to the levels of awareness stages. Now, when I say levels of awareness stages, a lot of people really do not know what I'm talking about. Only 3% of people who see your brand, who visit your website, are ready to do business with you. 97% are not. But even though that's the case, nowadays, majority of brands spend majority of their budgets, over 90% of their budgets, on the bottom funnel 3%. So today, we are going to break down why this is a terrible idea and why you are leaving conversions on the table when you approach sponsored search, paid search in this manner. Here is the main problem. Impressions do not mean clicks. Clicks do not mean conversions. You could spend $1,000 and get 1 million impressions and 1,000 clicks on a specific paid search campaign and get 0 conversions. Now, a lot of marketers understand the concept of conversions, but they don't understand the technical side of paid ads and how they need to function, how the different levels of awareness stages need to have different types of ads for different ICPs, different ideal customer profiles, to actually move them through the funnels to bring them to conversions. At Optimum 7, we understand this entire ecosystem and we engineer conversions based on your top selling products, top selling services, what the levels of awareness stages are for your products or for your services, and we turn attention into conversion and scale it with precision. Here is the reality check that you need. There is a 95% chance that whatever it is you're doing with your paid search is not optimized, because majority of agencies out there and also majority of in-house media buyers, they autopilot every single type of paid search campaign. Why do they autopilot it? Because to manage it is actually difficult. You have to log in every day. You have to review the metrics every day. You have to keep a close eye on conversions. You have to keep a close eye on click-through rates. You have to make sure that you have new ad campaigns on a weekly, monthly basis. You don't see Apple, Microsoft, you don't see these huge brands running the same kinds of ads over and over again, but majority of small and medium-sized businesses, they literally get one video or one banner or one graphic and they run that for months and years. And this is simply why they kill their conversions. So what I like to do is to create a matrix, what you spend versus what you got. And a lot of experts simply do not do this. Let's just call it as it is. They are lazy. They want to autopilot. They don't want to work as hard. They don't want to look at competitor ads. They don't want to do price comparison matrices. If you cannot portray that message to your audience, it doesn't matter what level you're targeting, it's not going to convert. You will not be able to move them from an unaware stage to the most aware stage. And for us to understand how paid search actually even functions, we need to talk about these levels of awareness stages. First, you have unaware. Unaware simply means that they don't know that they have a problem. They don't know that there's a solution to that problem. They don't know that your product or service solves that problem. Then you have problem aware. Problem aware means that they know they have a problem. They might be looking for a solution. They don't know what the solution is. They don't know that your product or your service is the solution to that problem. And then you have solution aware. They know they have a problem. They know there's a solution, and they haven't found your company yet. They don't know that your product or your service solves that problem. Then you have product aware. They know there's a problem. They know that there's a solution to that problem, and they know that there's a product that solves that problem. Then after all of that, you have most aware. They know that they have a problem. They know there is a solution to that problem. They know a product exists to solve that problem, and they know that you offer that product or your service to solve that problem. That is the most aware stage. So our job as media buyers, marketers, our job as paid search experts is to move people through the unaware stage all the way to the most aware stage. But what brands do is they don't split up their budgets. Let's say a brand has $1 million a month advertisement budget across the board, different channels for sponsored search or for sponsored media, right? What they do is that they take $900,000 of that budget and they blow it on the most aware. Well, what happened to the 97%? You're not getting enough people into your pipeline to move them from unaware all the way to most aware. And the types of campaigns or the types of messages, the videos, the graphics, the banners that you use for an unaware audience is not the same as you do with problem aware, solution aware, product aware, most aware. These are different messages. But when we engage with different types of brands, all they care about is conversions. I want conversions. KPIs. Everybody learned that term somehow. Everybody fucking keeps using it. Nobody knows what KPI means. They just use it to be fancy. Return on ad spend. Well, return on ad spend is nice, but it's gonna take time to build it up. You don't even have visibility. You don't even have your funnels organized. You don't even have different landing pages for different funnels. You don't even have your internal website systems optimized. This needs to be a very well-structured machine to be able to get the conversions. And then, I'm sorry, but you have idiots who cannot do math. Let's say average CPC, cost per click, is $5. Let's say I get 100 clicks. Doesn't matter where, that cost me $500. If I'm spending $500 to get 100 clicks, how many conversions do I need to break even? Well, if you are really, really good, your conversion rate is gonna be 3%. So you spent $500, you got 100 clicks, and you have 3 customers or 3 orders. Well, what's your average order value? If you're selling a $50 shirt and you have a 50% gross margin, congratulations, you just made $75 because that's $50 divided by 2, $25 profit per product times 3, $75 revenue. So you spent $500 to make $75. Well, you better sell those guys a shitload of shirts. Otherwise, you're losing money. But people get happy. Whoa, you got a 3% conversion rate. Doesn't matter. So sponsored search experts and media buyers or PPC experts, they don't do this math. You have to build an acquisition model that actually makes sense. Now, the reason that we love industrial businesses or B2B businesses is I spent $500, got 100 clicks, got 3 customers or 3 leads, whatever you want to call it, but my average order volume is $2,000, right? And if I have a 20% margin on that product, which means that I'm pulling in what, $400, right? I just made $1,200. So I just spent $500 to make $1,200. Or I might be selling a subscription-based service. Yes, I did sell a $50 product, but that $50 reoccurs every single month. It's $50 every single month. So then if my lifetime value, which is a metric that I love that nobody talks about, is now 50 times 12. If my lifetime value is 12 months or 1 year, now I spent $500 to make $600, right? So I'm profiting $100. If I can scale that, if I can do functionalities and things to maximize my lifetime value, then you have the right matrix. And a lot of people, it's insane, do not understand how e-commerce or scalability works. You cannot compartmentalize different marketing elements of your brand anymore. PR is tied to conversions, conversions is tied to PR, paid search is tied to organic, organic is tied to email marketing is tied to retargeting. Stop trying to compartmentalize the different departments in your marketing because it's not going to work. At the end of the day, you are not going to be successful. You are not going to scale. It's going to look like you're making money today, but you'll be out of business in the next 3 to 5 years, especially in the age of AI. Most agencies are just going to give you a keyword list. Hey, these are 1,000 keywords we're going to bid on. Well, they haven't divided up the keywords, if you're bidding on keywords on AdWords, right? They haven't divided this up into levels of awareness stages, into buyer intent. That's just a nerd looking at 1,000 keywords. You need to make sure that an agency understands your service, understands your product, understands your value proposition. They understand your ideal customer profile. They understand your super consumer profile. And a lot of people don't even understand the difference between the ICP and the super consumer profile. Your ideal customer profile is everybody that will be your customer. Your super consumer profile is where you make 50 to 75% of your revenue. I'll give you an example from Optimum 7. My ideal customer profile at Optimum 7 is any e-commerce business that does $3 million to $500 million. My super consumer profile is any industrial B2B e-commerce business that does $5 million to $50 million. Why do I have a super consumer profile? Those are the people that I make the most amount of money from. Why? Because it's the fastest growing sector in e-commerce. Why? Because those are the people who haven't really caught up to a technology. Why? Because those are the people who have been doing word of mouth so far and they are slow to catch up to technology because the type of business that they do is more relationship building, manufacturers, suppliers, import, export. That's why that industry is really, really juicy for me, because when I get a client, there are so many things to do. They're leaving a lot of money on the table. They don't have the right system, the right platform, the right infrastructure. They don't have the right pixels, the right technologies, the right functionalities. They don't have right almost anything. So when I get that type of customer, the lifetime value of that customer for me is literally a decade. And I am going to make anywhere from $50,000 to $500,000 annually from that type of customer. So what you need to do is stop building keyword-based funnels and start building revenue-driven, intent-driven funnels. It's insane to me because a lot of these people who are working on these types of projects, a lot of these so-called VPs and CMOs, I'm sorry, I gotta call it out, they don't even understand marketing. They don't know how marketing works. They don't know that in today's day and age, you cannot track first acquisition and last acquisition. Average user needs 26 brand touch points to do business with you. My job as the marketer is to get you those 26 brand touch points and to get you those 26 brand touch points for as little money as possible. If I'm lucky enough to get that click and get them to your website or to your brand, wherever it is, you could be retail, you could be online, doesn't really matter, you better give them a seamless experience. Because we live in the age of 1-star Netflix shows or 5-star Netflix shows. We live in the age of 1-star restaurant experience or 5-star restaurant experience. There's no 3-4 stars anymore. You're either terrible or you're great. Consumers look at things now and you have only one chance to make a first impression. If the user even feels 1% confused, they're gonna leave. And when they leave, why is our bounce rate so high? Why is our conversion rate so bad? Well, I keep telling you that your site experience sucks, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to separate marketing from development. You're trying to separate brand from marketing. It's all integrated now in today's world, ladies and gentlemen. So stop doing stupid and dumb shit and start learning marketing and paying attention to what experts are telling you. If you don't trust the experts because you're way too paranoid, pay attention to what the consumer is telling you. No optimization, no profit. Paid search is not a fire and quit or fire or let's see what happens type of execution. Paid search needs to be on point. They need to understand, whichever expert is working on your account, they need to understand what you sell, why you sell it, how you productized it, how good you are, what the benefits are, what the features are, who are the competitors. This is not bidding on a keyword, or I see this often. Oh, we just submitted all our products into Merchant Center, Google Shopping, and we're gonna get some orders. No, your titles are not optimized. Your product descriptions are not optimized, right? You don't have any kind of snippets in your product descriptions. You are not providing any kind of FAQs. You don't have reviews, or you have reviews, but you don't have the right technical infrastructure to pass your reviewers into Google Shopping. They're like, why do I have lower conversion rates? Well, you have low conversion rates because your development agency sucks. You have a great marketing agency, but your development agency sucks and they are not talking to one another. Oh, we have so much mentions on media or news channels. We have so many earned media mentions, but it's not translating into conversions. Well, you can't separate that anymore. You can't separate brand from strategy, from experience, from UI, UX, to SEO, paid search, to marketing. You cannot separate the spectrum anymore. It all works together. My job as an expert is to understand how your business works, functions, what the value is, what the ICP super consumer profiles are, and then based on that, create campaigns that are going to be effective short term, but also translate to intermediate and long term. Anytime you get on a phone call with any kind of marketing person, any kind of so-called expert, they start talking gibberish to you and technical shit to you, hang up the phone. They don't understand marketing. They can submit a bunch of feeds to Google. They can bid on keywords. They can talk about quality score all they want, but they don't understand the core fundamentals of marketing execution. And they cannot do this for you. I have a bunch of nerds that work with me, and I'm a nerd myself, but we need to couple those nerds with strategists. We need to couple those strategists with brand experts. We need to couple those brand experts with graphics experts. We need to couple those graphics experts with conversion experts. We need to couple those conversion experts with front-end and back-end engineers and QA engineers. This is all an integrated system. And that brings me to the next part, which is omni-channel approach. And then the last part of this, that a lot of brands, business owners, CMOs, COOs, and sales executives miss, is the fact that conversion comes from consumption. I always say this. Charles Godet, my business coach, taught me this years ago. Consumption equals conversion. The more your audience, your ideal customer profile, consumes your content, the more likely they are to convert into a customer. Retargeting is extremely important, but I look at these budgets, millions of dollars of budgets, 95% spent on bottom funnel, which is remember, 3% of people are ready to do business with you, 5%, 4%, 3% on retargeting. It is stupid. Your retargeting should be at least 25 to 30% of your entire budget, because retargeting allows you to reserve your ads, your messages, to those people who have engaged with your brand. And it has to be at such a level that based on the engagement level, for example, we create different audiences for different types of people. Tools like Klaviyo, Attentive help with this. Yes, they're looking at your website, but how are they engaging with your website? How long did they stay? In the past 30 days, how many people were on your site 5 times or more that did not convert or that did not opt in? And that's the kind of metric I'm looking for, and those audiences need to be segmented. So there's no segmentation on most ads. It's kind of like everything is thrown into one bucket and they're trying to create conversion out of that bucket. They're trying to create ROAS and conversions out of thin air with no metrics, no tracking, no analysis whatsoever. So if we see that somebody viewed the product and stayed on that product for more than 2 minutes, 3 minutes, what we do is we're gonna serve them testimonials. We're gonna serve them reviews. If somebody added an item to their cart multiple times, one time, it doesn't really matter. We're gonna serve them with aggressive offers. We're gonna serve them with ads that basically talk more about the benefit or the value of the product. We're gonna hit pain points, because for a sale to take place, you need 3 things: pain, budget, decision. Well, you make sure through your ICP that they have the budget. I'm not talking to $500,000 e-commerce businesses, right? You're gonna make sure that it's the decision maker that's looking at the product or service. Most of the time with D2C, it is the decision maker, right? But with B2B, for example, I don't care if an assistant is looking at my $10,000, $20,000, $100,000 search and filter functionality. I need the decision maker. And what's the last step? The most important step? Pain. If you do not inflict pain, you will not get the sale. And that's what marketing is for. That's what paid search is for. And then you have the 97% that's not ready to buy, that's not giving you any kind of engagement. They're just looking still, right? They're researching, they're looking, they are attempting to decide, they're maybe price shopping, comparison shopping, whatever is happening. Those people need to be fed into that funnel that we created at the beginning of that video, remember? And you move them through the stages of this funnel all the way to a purchase. This is how sponsored search, this is how paid search, PPC, any sort of media buying needs to operate. Stop working with nerds. Start working with marketers who understand this entire infrastructure of how to get you potential customers actual customers, repeat customers. I'll talk to you guys next week.